The Falcons are keeping Kirk Cousins for now, after he secured a $10 million bonus for 2026. That had to hurt. That had to hurt the Falcons to give him that bonus. With a massive dead cap hit, releasing him just isn't an option. And Cousins has told owner Arthur Blank he wants to start elsewhere in 2025. And can you blame him? What do you think about the Cousins situation, Nate?
I think right now this has been handled so poorly from literally the minute Kirk Cousins got there. Because after tearing his Achilles midway through the 2023 season, it kind of was like, okay, the Kirk Cousins era was over. And so the Falcons went out, they signed him, and then 41 days later, after Kirk Cousins uprooted his family and moved to, I believe, where his wife's family currently resides, so it's kind of just like a hometown, we're going back home kind of a thing. 41 days later, they draft Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick in the 2024 draft. He was never informed that this is what the Falcons were going to do. So he was blindsided by this and clearly displeased from the moment he got there. He signed a 4-year, $180 million contract, and he currently has played 14 games, which means that, most likely, he'll have $100 million for playing 14 games. We're talking about bad contracts and how you handle quarterback situations. This might be one of the worst of all. I think Deshaun Watson will forever be number one unless that somehow gets topped. And let's just say Dak Prescott just hits a massive cliff and falls off it. That might be the worst contract, signing the $60 million average annual value, and then he just plays poorly. But right now, Deshaun Watson takes the cake for that. But the Kirk Cousins situation is abysmal. Because now you're having a quarterback who's going to make $100 million guaranteed for 14 games, be the backup for a rookie quarterback. Or now going into a year two quarterback. It's not great, but I think, honestly, it doesn't really matter that much because Kirk Cousins kind of did this to himself. You had a top 4 offensive line last year. And the offensive line wasn't great, but you didn't exactly help them out because you were a statue in the pocket. And then let's say, why did you get benched? Why did you get benched, Kirk Cousins? Well, let's take a look at the last 5 games you started of 2024. You had a 1-4 record, a completion percentage, that's terrible, it's 62.7. The passing yards per game weren't garbage, but 236 is not that great. 1 touchdown to 9 interceptions. That should be a slash, not a apostrophe. But yeah, 1 touchdown to 9 picks, a passer rating of 63.8. And you averaged my glorious number that I rip on Russell Wilson for of 14 points a game. That's what your offense averaged in those last 5 weeks. So a lot of the blame falls on you. But I can understand why you want to find another home. The question is, though, if you do get traded, obviously the Falcons are going to pull right now what the Bengals are doing with Trey Hendrickson. Make the asking price so ridiculous and say, well, you're going to take on a massive part of Kirk Cousins' contract because he's going to be our backup. And right now you have the GM of the Falcons currently saying we're going to keep him as a backup. We have Terry Fontenot. He wants to keep him as the backup for Michael Penix. But who says that's not a massive distraction? Who says that's not actually a negative for Michael Penix? Because right now you have a guy who doesn't even want to be there, who before free agency already told his owner, I don't want to be here. And now you have a rookie quarterback who's played 3 games, who we don't exactly know what he'll become. And you're saying, well, it's the same thing with what you're talking about with Aaron Rodgers, where it's, what if Michael Penix doesn't start off so hot in 2025? Would fans be begging and screaming in the stands to start Kirk Cousins? Kind of what we heard from Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. We were in the stands during that Saints game where the offense was abysmal. The entire stadium was chanting Zappi. And during the Bears game, where Mac Jones' first game where he came back in 2022, everybody in that game was chanting Bailey Zappi. So could that be a situation? I don't think Michael Penix is the abomination of a Mac Jones or a Bailey Zappi in that situation. But it could be a situation where if Michael Penix starts off slow, Kirk Cousins, he's already voiced his displeasure with his situation in Atlanta. He could either force his way out, which I don't know if Kirk Cousins has the personality to go in and say, you know what? He reportedly already says he's going to miss out of non-mandatory, practices and training camp or whatever the case may be, off-season programs. But could he be the guy to sit out mandatory minicamp? Could he be the guy to sit out potentially games, regular season games, just because he wants out? And I think when it comes to this is the only way that's going to happen. I don't think the Falcons, unless a team blows them out of the water with a ridiculous, offer to them, which I don't think right now any team is willing to do that, unless the Giants get super desperate, unless the Steelers get super desperate, because let's be honest here, the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh, let's bring up this graphic once more. The quarterback situation in Pittsburgh right now is Mason Rudolph. The quarterback situation right now for New York is currently Tommy Cutlets. And the quarterback situation for the Tennessee Titans is Will Levis. The Saints have Derek Carr on a big cap hit, and the Browns currently have Kenny Pickett starting at quarterback 1. But Deshaun Watson, if he didn't tear his Achilles again, he would obviously be the starting quarterback, most likely, probably because they're spending a stupid amount of money on him. He would probably be the quarterback 1. So right now, you're really stuck with the Steelers, who have all eyes on Russell Wilson. You have the Giants, who right now are bringing in washed, old, and high-risk quarterbacks, and then Aaron Rodgers. And the Vikings right now, and Aaron Rodgers' entire career decision is currently reportedly residing on the Minnesota Vikings decision. So right now, the Kirk Cousins situation has been handled horribly, because you spent a bunch of money on him. You're giving him $100 million guaranteed to play 14 games. You have been adamant. Not even, like, that's the thing. It's not even like, okay, we're going to see who's better in training camp or who's better in practice. This is Michael Penix is our starter, and we're spending $100 million guaranteed on a backup quarterback. So it's utterly ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's a pretty big risk. I agree with you. They've blown it totally. And their management is famous for making very poor decisions. So I think this is what's going to happen is they're going to take a huge risk and trade Kirk Cousins away. And that means that they're counting on Michael Penix to play the whole year. The sample size for him, a couple of games there, very small. Didn't get him into the playoffs like they were hoping. He did play reasonably well. He didn't play any worse than Kirk Cousins played down the stretch. He deserved to be benched. But you're going to go with Michael Penix, guys? He's had like 2 or 3 games, a sample size here to see whether he's your guy. He passed for under 1,000 yards, and you're going to put him out there and be the starting quarterback for the whole year and who's your backup going to be now? I don't know. Joe Flacco? Maybe. I don't know. Who's it going to be? We don't know. So I think it doesn't make sense, and it's a risk, but I don't think it doesn't make sense for Atlanta not to trade Cousins. They benched him late in the season, as you said, hoping Penix could push them to the playoffs, and he nearly did it with a performance that was at least as good as Cousins, as I mentioned. When the season starts, Penix will be on the field and Cousins will be elsewhere. I think that's what we're ultimately going to see. I think this is a smokescreen that they're putting up, that they want to hang on to him when they see these other teams out there. Somebody's going to want him, I think, before it's all over. When the musical chairs stop between Rodgers and Wilson, it could mean neither is available for the Giants. So maybe Kirk Cousins is headed there. Daboll and Schoen, not anxious to start a rookie for sure, because it will likely cost them their jobs, which probably is going to happen anyway, as we've said. Cousins might be the answer for the Giants. He's unhappy. He wants to be traded, and can't be a backup quarterback for $40 million a year. That just doesn't happen. And, so I'd say trade him now, save $2.5 million in cap space. Trade him after June 1st and save $27.5 million in cap space. It makes a lot of sense. If he's traded to the Giants, he would make $27.5 million. And they have Neighbors, Slayton, and Tracy for him to throw to. So that's not great. Maybe Neighbors is great, but they're going to double team him probably. I think Slayton is, I mentioned, I think he's a little better than you think he is. And he's had some big plays for the Giants in the past. So it's not terrible. And he'd be in a place where he was wanted, at least. He'd be the starter. With him, they could select the best available player or trade back for additional draft capital. Maybe they pass on a quarterback this time around and they do it next year. The Giants would be more appealing than backing up at Penix in Atlanta, that's for sure. He might want assurances that the Giants won't draft a quarterback at number 3 if the Giants consider making him an offer.
I'll say this: we have to. I completely forgot about this, but now it's coming back to me. Remember when we were talking about who's playing in the preseason, and Kirk Cousins says that he asked if he could play,
right? And they wouldn't let him.
Raheem Morris said, "Either we never had that conversation, or we were not playing him." But yet Kirk Cousins wanted to play in the preseason because he was just coming off an Achilles injury, and that Week 1 game against Pittsburgh was probably the ugliest, besides, what we saw in the last 5 games. But that was one of the ugliest games I've ever seen Kirk Cousins play. He was a statue in the pocket. The offensive line didn't hold up. The communication was way off. Kirk Cousins did not seem comfortable. People were analyzing, how is he dropping back in the pocket? Or actually, no, he didn't. I think he took 97% of his snaps from the shotgun, but it's how is he structuring his throws? His footwork is terrible. He had no ground.
He had no practice, and they didn't let him play.
Right. He had no comfortable game playing at all because he didn't play in the preseason.
He did have some good games during the year, though. There were some games that were good.
There were two good
games against Atlanta.
No,
I mean against the Buccaneers.
Correct.
Right?
The overtime game. He had like
game against
400
Dallas.
yards.
Game against Dallas was good, right? So he had some games that were.
And now
good.
supposedly, I completely forgot about this. Cousins said after Week 10 that he banged up his his right shoulder. He was doing the right elbow and right shoulder injury. You know what the Falcons said? No, he ain't. He was on the injury report after Week 10, cleared to play in Week 11, and didn't play. It wasn't on the injury report for the rest of the season. But he was saying, I'm hurt. So I don't even know who to believe. Because I think some things where...
I would believe him, actually, because just given the way the Falcons have been in recent years...
But you don't like them also because Bill Belichick.
I do. I don't like them. I
screw
Bill Belichick, and I don't like that.
I think right now, the way that the Falcons have handled this is abysmal. Not informing a quarterback 41 days after you just signed to a 4-year, $180 million deal. You're going to give him $100 million to play 14 games. You draft a rookie quarterback, 8th overall, shock the NFL world. And right now, you're not even saying, okay, we're going to put the best quarterback out there for 2025. We're saying we're starting this now year 2 guy who played 3 games.
Yeah.
And we're allowing a $100 million guaranteed quarterback to be their backup. And the GM said he's very comfortable with Cousins being the backup.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be there. I guarantee if Kirk Cousins had this personality, he truly wanted out, he would become a distraction for Atlanta.
He will.
And I think honestly,
if they don't trade him.
Most people would take a look at that situation and say, rightfully so. They screwed him over from literally a month after he got there.
I know. I agree 100%. We were shocked that they drafted Penix when we talked about after the draft.
Yeah.
We said, what were they thinking about? What are they doing?
Right.
Yeah. And now it's snowballed. It's a bigger problem. It's even bigger problem now.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.